Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Frame Live. My name is Dottie Sammartine, and today we have as our special guest, Chad Estes. Now, Chad has been with QubicaAMF for many years, and he's come up through training and product specialist, and he's now the Associate Product Manager for Scoring Technology Solutions. Welcome, Chad.
Hi, Dottie. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, you know, last year was quite a year. Numbers were just not adding up. And, you know, today we want to talk a little bit about just that, numbers. And there's so many different ways that you can drive your business and build your business back up and get back on that road to recovery. But sometimes it's difficult to know just where that low-hanging fruit is and how you can find those opportunities that might be out there. And one of those ways that you can do that is by looking at your numbers and really working with your numbers to see what you have in front of you and what the possibilities are for your center. So, Chad, again, welcome to the show, and let's just dig in and get started talking about numbers.
Absolutely.
But before we do that, I want to ask you one thing, since we are kind of leading into this, talking about the pandemic and how the pandemic has really forced us to take a look at our numbers and things. I want to ask you just kind of a little icebreaker question. What is the most valuable lesson that you learned from the pandemic?
Well, I think most of us would probably have the same answer, and it may sound cliche at first, but truly it is never to take the past or the present for granted, and that's both in life but in business as well. You know, I do come from a center background, a center management background, and putting that hat on, really thinking back, you know, 14 months ago, none of us were sitting around thinking that we were getting ready to go through what we went through. We were saying goodbye to friends, to league bowlers, to customers, at the same time that 2 weeks later, we had really just sat around and started talking about day camps and summer groups and summer leagues and getting those things on the floor. And everything happened so quickly. And unfortunately, some of those customers never returned. You know, they've turned away from the sport. They've given it up. Some are still dealing with some of the tragedy and some of the pain from the pandemic. And so it certainly is to never take the past or the present for granted. But luckily for most of us, we're on the upside of this. And yes. So I know it's great to feel like that things are getting back to normal in some way, form, or fashion at this point.
You are so right. And you know, last year, as you said, we woke up, we started our day, and never did we expect that suddenly things would come to a screeching halt. And that really, you know, numbers have always been important when you're running a successful center. But last year, we were constantly digging and digging and digging. We were looking for the data that was necessary to get financial assistance for our centers. We were looking for, you know, new ways that we could drive business. We were looking for ways to cut expenses. We were really looking at every single corner of our business and coming up with ways that we could survive. And you know, back in the day, some of that data would have been very time consuming to find. And I'm sure, you know, as a center manager, you can remember those days where you were, you know, searching and keeping Excel spreadsheets and workbooks and really trying to pull it all together. But today, it's a little bit easier to start to find the data that you need and to really make decisions for your business based on actual fact and numbers. So many times that falls to the bottom of the list, but now with the technology that we have and with you know, the different resources that are available, pulling those numbers are much easier. So let's take let's take a step back and look at some of the numbers and, you know, why do people What are they looking for when they start looking for numbers in their system or in their center? What are the questions they're asking themselves, or what are they trying to find by searching and working through numbers?
Well, I think it's a combination of things, really, from proper staffing levels to sales trends to profit and loss. Those are, of course, the most common and the best known numbers. But the best part about numbers in general and analyzing data and analyzing numbers is that you can use numbers and statistics to really find missed opportunities and to analyze trends where there are areas for growth that may not always be just black and white. It may not just be the food coming in the door, but it could be customer trends. Sometimes we don't really like to analyze numbers, or it falls to the bottom of the list, because whether it's right or wrong, numbers tell the truth.
They don't lie.
They do not lie. They tell the truth whether it's good or bad, and they're very truthful. They're non-discriminate. So it doesn't always fall at the top of the list, but numbers will always tell you what's going on in the center.
Absolutely. And you know, so that's important, whether your center is back open or not. And even during the time when centers were closed, we found that people were using those opportunities to look at things like food costs, and they were looking at the efficiency of turning their lanes around. So maybe they were looking to determine, is this the opportunity that I need to transition from game bowling to time bowling? And if so, where do I start? And what are my numbers telling me? And those are all very, very valuable things. And I definitely think going forward, one of the things that I learned from the pandemic was the value of constantly having a pulse for your business, constantly knowing where you are at any given time and what you can do to start to correct something before it becomes a full-blown problem. So, you know, for those viewers with Conqueror, there's a number of reports that you can analyze to get some very valuable information. Let's talk a little bit about Conqueror Reports and the ease of pulling those reports and what you can determine from them.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, before I dig into the Conqueror Reports, just to add something, you know, when you're looking at reports and analyzing numbers coming out of the pandemic, you know, you're right, Dottie. A lot of people took this opportunity to really look at food and beverage costs and staffing levels and what works and what doesn't. And coming from a training background as well, when I was training centers and going in and really helping them to look at their investment and start to utilize and build on the investment that they've made in the scoring system, we always had the same conversation of price. This was the one time that you're doing something major in your center, and it's a great time to evaluate it and go up or go down or make whatever adjustments you needed. And I think that the pandemic and and centers being closed and going through and really looking at numbers and analyzing what's there has given us, you know, through an unfortunate circumstance, one more chance to reset. And so it's important to really take the information that the scoring system can give, that someone's spreadsheet can give, and really take a moment to reset if needed to, reset hours, reset pricing, reset specials. It's the time where you can really take a look at what's happening, what works and what doesn't.
You're so right. And you know, the other thing is, like I said earlier, to be able to identify a potential problem before it becomes a huge problem. Even things like, you know, maybe money going out the door. Is there money being left on the table? Or worse yet, you know, is there money that's not going into the register, and things along those ways. Those are all things that we've realized over the past year, that in this industry, and really, to be quite honest, in any industry, every single nickel and dime adds up to a big difference. But most especially now, when, you know, we are trying to get back on our feet. And I think that, you know, like I said earlier, to be able to take what we've learned from the pandemic, which is the value of being able to put as much money in your register as you possibly can and not leave money, you know, not leave money on the table, is so, so valuable. So if you, in your opinion, what are your top 3 favorite, all-time favorite Conqueror Reports? I know there's a lot of them and you really are going to have to think about this, but if you just could pick 3 of your top favorites, what would they be?
So Dottie, if it's okay, I'm just gonna share my screen for a second so I can
That's
talk.
perfect.
And you know, I have a demo system, so I don't have a lot of data.
Okay.
But just really taking a look at some of the statistical reports in the system, and this is from version 11 of Conqueror on forward. We have the ability to, number one, take a look at what's hot and what's not. That's one of my favorite reports. To really take a block of time, whether it's a day, a week, a month, a year, you choose, and take one of your departments, whether it's your food and beverage, which most popular because of the percentages, whether it's your game bowling, whatever it may be. Take that department and really start to analyze what is being sold and what's not being sold, what your most popular items are and what your least popular items are. And we'll take a look real quick at my fairly non-existent food and beverage menu here. But it will give you what your top sellers are, as well as what your bottom dwellers are when you start looking at your food and beverage category. From the center management background, I know that not to pick on anyone in particular, but I had beer vendors that would always want to sneak in that one bottle of that one new bottle, or the one special bottle, the one seasonal bottle. They would sneak it in on the bottom of the stack, and it was just there, but it didn't make a lot of money. So being able to go back and take a look at what the trends are, what your consumers are buying, what they're not buying, and help to control those inventory levels was always key.
Well, and you know, the other thing is you want to do that periodically. You want to go in and pull that report because it also gives you an opportunity to tidy things up, you know, to do a little housekeeping and get rid of those items that aren't selling. Clean up your keyboard layout, get rid of some price keys that are not being used, and of course get rid of the inventory that go if it's a food item or a beverage item. Get rid of it in your inventory and don't keep it just sitting there, you know, gathering dust.
Absolutely. So that was my number one.
Okay.
Following closely behind is department hourly sales, and this is really good when you start talking about labor trends and how many people and what staffing needs I have in the center. So being able to take a look again at those same durations from day, week, month, or a year, and again being able to sort by department and see really when your peak times are in the center, when things are being sold, when games are being bowled. Maybe I can redistribute my employees from early morning to mid-morning, or late night to prime time, especially in a time right now where many centers are going through some changes in their hours in the first place, either by local or state regulation, or just because they decided it's time to scale back the operation. And of course right now there are certainly centers out there who are struggling to find employees. So being able to utilize the employees in the best way possible is incredibly important. And this is one of those reports that really helps to do that.
Yeah, that's a great report.
I'll show my third one is really just a generic shift report from the day. However, breaking that down and actually utilizing price key by value. And unfortunately, again, I'm not going to have a lot of data here. But the price key by value report is a much more detailed end of shift, end of day report. And of course, I have no totals on this one. I should have looked ahead of time. But it breaks down not only what your sales are, but what you sold them for, how many you sold, and what your totals were throughout the day. It gives you a more detailed report than just our overall cash out report. It's important to know what's going on in the center and how many of those bowling games you sold before 5 o'clock at $2, as opposed to how many you sold after 5 o'clock at $3. How many kids' shoes, how many adult shoes. And you can also run these reports through our historical report to look at monthly and weekly and daily, whatever time period you want. But looking at that on a daily basis and looking at those trends is really important to keeping your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the business.
For sure. And numbers are useful for other reasons too. And you know, I come from a marketing background. Obviously, my role here is doing marketing. And so, you know, anytime a center is putting a program in place, it's so nice to be able to go and see if that program is working by looking at your numbers. And the other thing that I want to mention, because you've shown some really great reports here today, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of what, you know, what is available. And one of the things that I'm going to encourage our viewers to do, if you are a viewer that has Conqueror and has access to these reports, is to sometimes just go in and pull reports for periods and start to look at what information you do have at your fingertips, because it's absolutely amazing to realize when you realize how much information you have by simply a couple of clicks, and how detailed you can make it depending on what you want. So if you're looking for information, I encourage you to hunt around and look at all that you already have available, because I can almost guarantee you there's a way that you can get that number. So, okay, so that's you know, again, with the Conqueror reports, there's a lot available, but that's not the only way that you can get the data and get numbers and to really analyze your center. Tell us a little bit about QPortal, Chad.
Absolutely. So for our Conqueror X friends, and for those that are looking at Conqueror X, you saw my Conqueror version that was up a minute ago, and that's the newest version of the Conqueror management platform. And so I have to talk a bit about Conqueror X to really start to introduce the QPortal. The QPortal works with Conqueror X, and it's backed by the services of the Conqueror Cloud. The QPortal is the window into which you can view all the data that's in the cloud, which helps you make informed decisions and helps to really expand on some of the things that are already existing in Conqueror, but really goes much farther beyond that to look at deeper data and deeper analytics. The QPortal includes a business dashboard, game statistics, pin spotter performance monitoring, online backups, access to training libraries, and some marketing services that, Dottie, I'm sure are near and dear to your heart. And I'm going to grab control again one more time and really take a look, if you don't mind, at some of the stuff.
Absolutely, be my guest.
Let me find my share button one more time.
Well, you know, again, Chad, while you're bringing that up, you know, this is exciting because this is information that, number one, it was very, very difficult to gather accurate information. And now, you know, with the QPortal, you've got something that's live.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's live to the minute. There's data that's coming in for every ball that's thrown, for every burger that's sold. It's live and going to show up on the QPortal. And here this is all accessible through any browser, qportal.QubicaAMF.com. And for those on Conqueror X that have already upgraded, if you don't have access to this, or you're not using it, feel free to reach out, because we're glad to help you do that. We're taking a look here at a center who's allowed me to use their data here, and has allowed me to take a look at real stuff and real things that are happening in a live center. We, of course, you know, taking the names off here, but, you know, really taking a look at, first and foremost, some of the filters that are here. We're able to sort by any date range, any number of lanes, so we can identify trends in a VIP area if the center has that, or, you know, in certain subsets of the center if you have a larger center. We can even break down and filter by time range. And what you're seeing on the screen here is our game statistics. So for this center has classic and entertainment bowling, which are both components of the Best X entertainment system, and they also have hyper bowling. And you see hyper bowling on the screen here. 35% usage on hyper bowling and 65% with the other games in the VIP area, which they're charging extra for hyper bowling, but that's still a pretty good number. And when we start to break this down, we can go a little further into breaking down the components and see what different environments are being played and how long customers are playing them. These are the entertainment options within the entertainment environments within Best X. We see what the favorites are, and we see what's being underutilized. And for centers that really want to take a look and analyze numbers, you're able to start to look at trends and identify ways that you can package these games together to create packages and create environments that will help you to monetize, utilize, and refresh all the different experiences in the center.
Well, I mean, this is absolutely a marketer's dream here, being able to have all of this information and see what customers, this gives you a really good idea of what your customers are at any given time. And to be able to put some really nice promotions and programs together based on this information, you know you're going to be attracting an audience, you know, that you're looking for if you're utilizing this data to make those decisions about what programs and promotions you want to execute. So this is absolutely, this used to be obtained by saying, hey, so-and-so at the front counter, can you give me an idea of what's going on at this time? Now it's in black and white, or in this case in living color here. Absolutely.
You know, there's still an argument that there's no comparison to really getting behind the counter or walking around wiping off tables and talking to people. But again, numbers don't lie. And really being able to sit down and look at what's there and what's actually happening in the center is huge. I'll jump over real quick and just show one more section, which is our performance data. And for any of our smart machines, our intelligent chassis, the XLI chassis on the Edge pin spotter or on the Edge string machine, we're really able to dig in and see mechanically what's happening in the center as well. So we see how many frames are bowled, what the stops were, how long the machines were down, how long the customer's play was interrupted, and really identify trends and have our staff working on those to help to prevent those. In this case, 29 stops in a month is an incredible.
Wow. Boy, this is something to brag about.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. There's a lot of great data in the Q portal. And it's only going to continue to evolve and expand as we go forward, both with the data here, as well as the services that are attached to the Q portal. And I have one more, Dottie, if I can show.
Absolutely, please do.
Wow, lost my words. Flip my source real quick. But we'll go actually into a live demo here. And this is what the Q portal menu looks like. So here's all the services that exist today as we start to expand and we start to expand on the ecosystem even and present new products as we go towards Bowl Expo and beyond. We'll start to grow what's available in the Q portal. And the great part about that is this is live. You can take a look at this data, you can make changes, you can do all of this sitting behind the desk in your office at the center. You can do it sitting in your home office, or you can do it sitting in a booth at Chili's on Sunday night. You can take a look at what's happening in the center anywhere you go. It's available at your fingertips. And when we take a look at our business dashboard, again, this is not real data. This is coming from our demo system. So some of the numbers may not make sense, but we can go back and we can look at any date range available. Let's look at an entire month here and really start to identify trends. What was sold when? Again, this is all live data. We can export it. We can manipulate it any way we'd like. We can take a look at our trends, our hourly sales here on the right side with the graphs, and even dig into the details and see who sold what, when, and how many throughout the center. So there's a lot of information, and we're only going to continue to expand on this going forward. We get a lot of good feedback from centers that are utilizing this. They've given us great ideas to help to further utilize and build on what we already have.
Well, you know, Chad, before we went live, we were talking about one of the biggest problems or challenges that centers are facing right now is staff. And we talked about how you can empower employees by giving them access to certain parts. Certainly, you don't want every employee to have access to all of your financial data, but there is value in giving employees access to certain types of numbers. And talk a little bit about how you can decide who gets what.
Absolutely. The Q portal and the things you've seen so far are flexible. This is not meant just for the owners or the GMs of the center. There are certainly things that are secret or that you may consider to be confidential in your setup and your operation. However, the Q portal is flexible and allows you to provide access to certain parts of the Q portal to anyone who may need it. Your mechanic you may want to give him access to the performance monitor.
Mm-hmm.
They can take a look at that, but no one can see performance of the actual business dashboard. The same thing with the marketing and promotions staff. They can take a look at what games are being played. They can take a look at that type of thing, and in the future be able to access some of the promotional setups and things that we have coming in the near future. But again, without giving them access to the business dashboard. It's completely flexible, and helps to empower your staff to feel like they're more a part of the operation than just on the front lines. Give them an extra reason to really dig in and become invested in what they're doing in the center.
Of course. And, looking at numbers from a different perspective is always good. You might be surprised at something that an employee might see that you might have not ever thought about. So again, it really does start when you can empower an employee by giving them the ability to look at things and evaluate certain situations. It tells that employee that you have confidence in them, that you value them as an employee. And especially right now with the state of employment as it is right now, those things are big. We want to try to make the customer or the employees feel as good about their job as we possibly can.
They are. Yes, that's absolutely right, Dottie. Not to interrupt, but
sure.
No, it certainly is important, and it's important in helping to empower the staff. And when we're taking a look at numbers, and again, coming from a management background, it's really easy to get into the habit of looking at the numbers the same way and never looking beyond the surface. We start to look at it through rose-colored glasses. And sometimes we believe that everything is good when it's bad. And sometimes it's easy to look at things and think they're bad when they're good. So giving different levels of perspective and giving different levels of analytical power to the staff is very important to help to recenter not only the staff, but I think the management side as well.
I couldn't agree more. Well, Chad, as we are getting ready to close out our show for today, is there any closing thoughts that you would like to leave our viewers with?
When we started the show, and we really talked about making sure that we take everything at face value and not take things for granted. For those of us who are in the bowling business and the bowling industry, and I'm only 34 years old. I've been around this for 18 years. Whether it was changing trash can liners on a Saturday night or working on machines, and then being blessed to have the opportunities that I have here. I tell people all the time, we work in a great industry. We get to sit back and help people have fun. If you're behind the counter spraying shoes on a Saturday night, people didn't come to you to have a bad time. They came to you because they wanted to have a great time.
That's right.
And so we work in an industry that allows us to really do so much and have so much fun. And it's a great position for myself. I'm blessed to be able to sit here and really think of the next idea and be a part of helping centers make money and customers have fun. We're really in a blessed industry, and we're really in a great position. And never forget why you're here in the first place. Every one of us picked up a ball and threw it for the first time. Every one of us had that first experience that made us fall in love, either with the game, the sport, or the business, however you want to look at it. So never forget why we're here. Never forget how you got here. And I hope for those of you who are just hanging on and trying to get back open, you remember what got you here, and you're ready to play one more time.
That is such a great message, Chad. Well, I want to encourage our viewers to join Jay Nephew next week. He's going to have Dr. Dean Hennitz on the show, and they're going to talk about setting and achieving goals. So definitely a show you won't want to miss, and that's going to be next Thursday, the 13th at 3 o'clock Eastern time. So viewers, your business is way, way, way too important to make decisions that are haphazard. Be able to identify those opportunities to save a little more money, to increase your revenue, to get a quicker ROI, and to simply be more efficient. Back those decisions with real data that supports the decisions and make plans for a successful future. It really is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Chad, thank you very much for being our guest today. Hope everyone has a striking afternoon. Bye.